All right, I'm waiting for a few people to come in. Hoping my bangles don't make too much noise. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. For those of you guys that do not know who I am Minister Ashley. I'm an Oracle deck creator. I'm an author. I just don't like really, to have all these titles. I really like to say I am that I am because I'm constantly transforming and rebirthing myself. But anyways, you can check out my books on Amazon, and my Oracle deck will be listed here on TikTok as well as on Instagram and my Etsy shop as well as my website. And you can find out more information about me. But I am a spiritual teacher and as well a Bible decoder. All right, so today's topic is the law of give and take. Oh, yes, this piggybacks off of yesterday's message, and you can go check that out. So the 12 universal laws, it plays out in everything in our lives. And if you want to learn more about the 12 universal laws in the Bible, I do have a PDF download on my Etsy shop as well as on my website. But I'm going to get into all of these notes I have here. You know I come with the notes, okay? So first, I'm going to just say what the scripture is. It comes from the book of Luke, 6:38. So who is Luke? Luke is a physician. And I have some notes about decoding the physician. Starting on this side. Okay. All right. So a physician. He was a co-worker of the Apostle Paul, but also with the physician, a physician. And he was the only Gentile to have published a book in the Gospels. Okay. So ahead of his time, a bit of a trendsetter, according to those times. All right. So a physician in Latin comes from physicia, and that means things related to nature or a studier of nature. So an observer. This also could be linked to divination, which I have so many different types of divination that I've broken down, from observing the clouds, observing water patterns, bird patterns in the sky. It could be a myriad of different things. But being that he's a physician, he also helped to produce remedies and kept the apostles in optimal health. And it ties into this topic as it relates to grain. And grain was a form of currency back then as well, because that was a form of substance. So this scripture, when I break it down, it is about substance and about energetic exchange among substance. All right, let's get into the numerology. So we have Luke. I've already talked about who he is. And another thing about with a physician is a natural holistic healer. So this could be us finding different ways of how we could heal our bodies and our minds and our spirits through a homeopathic way, through a holistic way. All right. So 6 is the number of temptation and also disalignment. So when we are in alignment, equilibrium, imbalance, if we are in equilibrium and imbalance, that means inwardly and outwardly, as above, so below. Okay. And 3 is the Trinity. That's the base of alchemy. And it's also the number of transformation. So when you pair this together, being in harmony, in equilibrium and harmony within ourselves, that we are in balance, and it causes transformation in our lives. And 8 is fruitfulness, and it's also the number of as above, so below, as within, so without. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to, let me make sure I go, okay, I got this first set of notes. So in this whole chapter, in chapter 6, and once again, 6 about disharmony, also temptation. And what was the temptation here? The temptation was to give into authority. And so I'm going to give you a brief synopsis about what happened in this chapter. Okay, so Jesus is teaching on the Sabbath. So the Sabbath was considered to be like a holy day, a day of rest. We all should have a day of rest that we go within ourselves and we just allow our minds and our bodies and our actions just to rest. That is true. But to have a designated day assigned for that, like like what I mean by that is like universal day. Like this day has to be a day that all of us rest. But we can only speak for ourselves what rest is for us. And that's the whole purpose of this entire chapter. That's what Jesus was explaining to the religious figures, that rest is him, meaning that rest comes from yourself. What you know to be an alignment of rest for yourself. You can't rely on other people. And even this, I'm prompted to also say, when we're dealing with outside physicians, now I'm not a medical professional at all, but when we're dealing with outside physicians that do not know our soul's contract, do not know us inwardly and outwardly, they are only there in the midst of a system to provide us generic answers. So this also relates to what is beneficial for you in your health journey, and that's mental health, health as far as our bodies. And that is something for you to determine. Of course, once again, you seek the physician that you feel free to seek and their advice, but that's just a side note. Okay, so with the Sabbath, so it starts off with them in a field of corn or like some type of grain, and they're picking the stalks and they're eating them, but it was on the Sabbath day. So they were providing sustenance for their bodies because their bodies needed it in that moment. And here comes the religious figures like, why are you doing this? Why are you working on the Sabbath? And Jesus had to shut that down and pretty much saying that he is the Sabbath, meaning that he knows what his body needs, when and how to nourish his body. No one can tell you that but yourself, really. Okay. And moving on to the second stanza of this breakdown of this chapter, and it's 6 and 11. And on the Sabbath day, once again, near the synagogue, it was a guy that had a withered arm, and it was the right side. So the right side is the intuitive side. However, when you talk about the brain, that my right hand is ruled by my left side of my brain. So that is saying that esoterically, that he was held captive to the ideas of the society, as the left side is the masculine side, is the rules, regulations, and even harsh judgments that we may have on ourselves, predicated upon the mirror of the world that we perceive. Okay, so that is symbolically saying that being held captive to the logical, to the outward, and not going within the intuitive side, and allowing that right side, which represents the divine feminine, which represents the subconscious mind, and also our intuitive sense, and ignoring that in some way we're causing some form of crippling in our minds and bodies. And I'm not talking about like being born with, ailment. I'm referring to just like small habits that we may pick up on, small infractions that we may encounter because we're not taking care of our bodies, our health, and honoring our true nature. Like what is best for us? That is what this is all about. What is best for you? That is something that we all have to come to conclusion for ourselves. All right, now getting to this, before I get to the main scripture, I just wanted to also touch base. After he did that, they forbid him to, like heal anybody on the Sabbath. That was considered to be like a no-no during that time period. But he healed the guy on the Sabbath. And they were, in outrage. They were so upset. But Jesus went on the mountain, which is the higher mind. He went on the mountain to be with himself, to go pray, to go meditate. And sometimes we had to step out of the lower realms, the madness of the world, and go to the higher planes, our higher mind, and reside there for a period of time, reside there and receive those downloads, those answers, and to heal our intuitive body and to heal even our body. When he came down, that's when he chose the 12. And this is symbolic. This also ties into astrology and anatomy, but that's for a whole nother topic. Okay. All right. So let's get into the main scripture. Okay. Now we are on, I'm going to pull it up actually on my phone and read it. I go to like the translation from the original Greek. So it reads a little different than like the King James. All right. So this is in Luke 6:38. Well, first I'm going to like start at 37. And it says, "Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. So look at the wording of that. That's like an exchange. Like you give, I get, vice versa, and exchange. But sometimes, like I mentioned this in another discussion, that we hold on to things, and being that we hold on to things, that space that should be emptied out to be filled, we have something there. And this speaks to the primary scripture here. All right, now 6:38 in Luke, the great physician. Okay, we have a great physician. I'm not even going to get into all of that. Okay, all right. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and runneth over, shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye withheld, it shall be measured to you again. Okay, so I'm going to break this down. The wording is a little different. All right, I'm going to go to my notes. Okay. Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure. This is a portion that is right for you. A good measure. Another thing that sometimes that we can all do is we may look at someone else's portion and we may be envious, or why did they get so much? This also is like yesterday's message, where in the vineyard, the people that were working in the vineyard, that were there all day, got the same pay as those that came later. And that speaks to the conditioning of our hearts. Why are we envious, and why are we looking at other people's bounty or their abundance, their relationships, and envying, lusting after those? When if we focus on ourselves, we would be fulfilled. Even if I didn't see that person and I didn't know what they had, would I not have been fulfilled? We got to question ourselves in the way how we look at things, and the reason why we may look at things the way how we do. All right. So a portion right for you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. Shall men. Okay. So I'm going to break down shall men. Why is it important that they put shall men in this scripture? Because our blessings are tangible. The manifestation, the abundance is tangible. It's not just metaphoric, like, oh, I feel abundant. No, you are literally abundant, not just because of the filter that you look through. You are literally abundant because you have the physical, tangible abundance all around you. Okay. And it will come from physical substance, physical circumstance. Like another person could be so moved that, God moves them. They could be a blessing to you. Now, this word, let me go to what situations. Okay, give unto your bosom. Now, this word right here, give me a second, for substance. Okay. All right, so measured is actually meter, means it comes from it's the root word connected to mother, and matter. So material, like I was saying, is literally material evidence that you will have of this if you live by these principles, these universal principles, that it will play out in your life in physical matter. Literally, you will be able to see the evidence of the transformation of your mind and your heart played out in tangibles, from not just only money, but good health, good relationships, experiences that you never thought you could ever have because of this formula that they're laying out for you right here. Okay, now I'm going to continue. For with it shall be measured unto you again. And I spoke about the measure. You will literally be able to see how your life is shifting from right where you are now to elevating upward. Because this also speaks to good character of a good ruler. And ruler, esoterically, when they make reference to like ruler, measuring up, these are also principles that are connected to their agriculture, but it's also connected to esoteric principles. A meter, a ruler, like a ruler measures up to a certain standard. A ruler is able to handle the weight. You see all of these physical manifestations, physical examples that they use that we literally can see with our eyes and touch with our hands. And the substance is a feeling that will overflow in our soul and our spirit. And this also is in regards to herbal healing. I'm going to get to that. As grain, they would use grain a lot of times, not just esoterically as a symbol of abundance, but also it was like an agricultural reference. It was universal. Sometimes they would pay one another in grain or in like fruit or water. But salt was another one. I did a short video about the esoteric meaning of salt and how salt is so important in that culture as well as in the Bible, and salvation with the salt being the reference. Okay, I like the esoteric stuff. Okay, and wine. Wine is another thing that was a payment form that was given to workers and laymen. Okay, so with grain, this is, if you look at the going back through the scripture, pressed down, shaking together, running over, so much grain, so much substance that you won't be able to handle it. That means that you'll be a great ruler, a great leader, because you have to delegate those tasks to other people. You get how that works. You are blessed so much that you can't handle it, that you got to give some away. And this also is another principle about with give and take. When you are blessed, okay, I'm going to back up. Let me back up. Okay. So give and take, and how they would talk about tithes and offerings in the Bible from the Old Testament to the New Testament. The reason why this was a part of their culture is because they understood this law of give and take. I have to give some in order to be able to take on more. If you have too much, it will weigh you down energetically, physically, emotionally, psychologically, all of it, it will weigh you down. Sometimes when people, they may go, oops, didn't mean to kick it. When people, they start off with a certain financial situation, like they may be impoverished or something. They may have the lack mentality. And then they come into a huge withdrawal of money, a huge amount of money. And they don't know how to handle it because they haven't conditioned themselves. This is a process of being able to condition your heart and your mind to handle the large amounts of abundance that will come to you. Because what can happen, it could be overwhelming. And it would be so overwhelming that you don't know how to control it. Remember that money, grain, all of these are esoteric principles referencing energy. Sometimes you may have so much energy, so much abundance, so much overflow, you don't know what to do with it and how to handle it. If you practice this principle of give and take, you will know how to handle the situation when it comes up. If you were to receive, example, most people like to make this example about money. If you would know how to handle a large lump sum of money and not squander it. You know how to invest it. You know how to give properly, so that way you will make room for more to come. A lot of rich people, they can not, well, let me say wealthy, not just rich, but wealthy people understand this, because rich people can just be very flashy, but it doesn't mean that they have wealth. So wealthy people understand this concept. These are also ingrained in the Jewish culture, and you can see how they know how to utilize these universal laws. And they're encoded in the scriptures. When we can understand these and integrate them into our personality, that automatically is integrated into our lifestyle, we can definitely replicate abundance over and over. Our relationships, our finances, our mentality, our health, all of this can be applied to any facet of your life. Give me a second. Let me review my notes. Okay, now going back to grain, salt, wine, this refers to healing, like, all of these properties. And when I say properties, I'm talking about like the substance of wine, the substance of salt, were beneficial. They did not have things that will weigh them down everything that they intaked in their body had a purpose and not just for taste. Okay? Because this also relates to health. Health is your greatest wealth besides, family. So when we understand that if we are in perfect health, that we are able to do more, we're able to be more independent, interdependent, and as well, we're able to be of service to one another. Because if I'm being of service to you and whatever you feast on from my service, you're filled up and you're able to have the substance and the energy to provide to somebody else, whatever your modality may be of teaching, of reaching, of healing, whatever, your thing is, your sole purpose is. You get substance, you convert that into energy and more substance, and you're able to use that to give to others. And then it's vice versa. It's just a constant loop. Okay. And I think I've covered all of the things I can cover in this topic. Let me slide this up on here because I want to stay on topic with this scripture, because I could go into like the alchemy and all of these esoteric principles, the zodiac, all of that. But I will say that for another discussion, as I want to keep these along the lines of just, basic, not too out there and everything. So you guys, you can check out my book on Amazon and my Oracle deck here, Instagram, also on Etsy shop, my website. The PDF downloads I mentioned, the 12 universal laws, herbs in the Bible, all of this you can find on my Etsy as well as my website. And yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. So many blessings. Okay. Divine ones.